Welcome to a little mini clinic on how to put striping onto an EVA foam paved surface for an auto-loading dock. I'm Burr Stewart, and this is the Burlington Northern HO scale model railroad that you've seen in many of my other videos. For this video, I was assisted by Magnus Christerson and Dave Enger while we tried to figure out how to mimic this prototype auto staging area where in the early 1970s the Japanese automobiles were starting to be imported to the United States and hauled on rail cars from Seattle to east and south points. Our goal here was to imitate the striping that you see in this aerial photo on the asphalt pavement surface that we had just put down, made with EVA foam, otherwise known as craft foam, of a black color. Our first step was to do an experiment with two different ways to make the striping. On the right you see a yellow pan pastel, and on the left is a yellow, I think it's called signal yellow, acrylic paint that I had in my collection. So we tried painting the EVA foam with those two different methods, and then spray painted the pan pastel with Dullcote to see if that would keep it from rubbing. And you can see when I move my thumb across it, it does pretty well in keeping that pan pastel permanently fixed down. It happens that Dave is a traffic engineer, so Dave and Magnus got together with the photograph and came up with the astounding fact that the 1-inch blue masking tape was exactly the distance they needed between the lanes to represent 8-foot spacing in HO scale. So they carefully laid down the tape right on the pavement, made one final check that we liked what it looked like, which we did, and then we got to work with the pan pastel and just dabbed it in the cracks between the tape. When we were done with that, I got out a can of Dullcote, heated it up in some hot water so it would have high pressure, and then just put it on each one of the stripes, leaving the masking tape in place, and let it dry. A few days later, when it was nice and dry, I came back and carefully pulled all the tape off, being sure not to pull up the pavement, which was only lightly glued down. And it went pretty easily. I'll speed up the rest of the tape so you don't have to watch it painstakingly. I remembered that Magnus had suggested I vacuum pan pastel off first in case there were loose pieces that might get on the pavement and be difficult to clean up later. This seemed like a good idea, so I did it. I like using this black craft foam for pavement because it's easy to take pan pastels and blotch them with lighter gray colors for any weathering effect you might want. One final vacuum job, and then we started putting the cars back on to see how it looked. On the whole, I'm giving it a thumbs up. And now I just move the camera around to look at it from some different angles and put the railroad cars back in place and see how that looks. And I think you can see on the whole that it made a big improvement to the appearance of this Pier 90 area in the corner of our inner bay yard. I'm very pleased. At some point we'll figure out how to put down the prototype sign that says "No parking, fire lane" to the right of those vehicles. But that's for another day. For now, this is Burr Stewart wishing you much fun with trains.